Hey, it's episode 96 of SeerNova Podcast. So, yeah. Cool. Okay, we're here with Chris from Homebrewed Comics. Your last name isn't that long, but I don't want to say it just to
I don't usually use my last name just because it's such a terrible name to try and pronounce.
It's like, what's your name? Chris. It's like, what's your full name?
Just call me Christopher Michael. That's fine. My real last name is Sahloff, but everybody calls me Schloff, or I've even had people throw a C in there randomly.
I was going to say Sahloff. So
yeah, it's like German with Russian descent, and it's a mess. So even my wife loves it because her original last name was Smith. And so when we got married, I was like, I'm really sorry. Now you have this terrible last name. And she's like, no, now it's like unique. Just wait till you go to the DMV, and now all of a sudden you have an alternate identity because I spell your name wrong and you have to put that on your tax forms. They actually lost more fans with the clones than anything. But we can talk about how time travel and multiverse fix everything. I think the best fix for it is to literally say it never happened. What are you talking about? What trilogy of movies we spent billions of dollars on for no reason, right? I mean,
if anything, like they could go hardcore, say they're non-canon, make new ones. And what's funny? The DVDs of these non-canon ones are probably going to become valuable, and then you'll still have something.
Figures will be worth more. You'll be
because they don't exist. Yeah.
What we do in our comic universe is we don't have time travel. Like that doesn't exist. So
same. I thought about it at one point. I said, because time travel is always a good question, right? And in Dungeons and Dragons, which is what my stuff is all based off of, time travel kind of exists. You can slow down time, you can move time, things like that. And so I had an item that would allow you to, it's a magical item in D&D, it exists to change time. And everyone agreed, you start messing with time and it becomes very, very hard. Okay, like now you're messing with different things, and things have to line up correctly, and if it just creates more problems than it's worth. So we don't mess with time. I don't want to screw with it.
Yeah.
Now different realities, yes, there's layers to every universe. If you look at I'm okay with a multiverse, right? But in my multiverse, there's not like another caliber, another thing. It's just layers to this universe. So you have the earth layer, and then you have like the ethereal realm, and then you have the void, and you have these different realms.
Cool. That's like ours.
Yeah, that's like what we do. Like we have what's called the Noctem realm.
Yeah,
that's like our dark netherworld.
We don't have like another John Benson or whatever. We have like just him, and then there's other people.
We have so how I explain different realms is, for this realm to exist, so there's the ethereal realm, and then there's the void, and they kind of balance each other out. One is one is full of imagination, right? And one is lack of. And they create what we call the veil. And the veil constantly recycles the energy of universes to create new ones. So as your universe dies, it recycles your energy to make a new one. And like creatures, like if you've read my book, the cat Samedi, and the bad guy, the Zaka, the green bad guy from book 3, they are both what are called the Geed, and they're beings from the veil that actually do this. They recycle the energy into new universes. So they've just been they're omnipotent beings that sit there, and their sole purpose is to continually create the universe as yours dies. So you can't have different universes existing at the same time because it creates a problem. So something happens to where yours all of a sudden gets absorbed into the veil and then recycled into a new universe. So that comes in much, much later in the story, to where they want to experience this. They, like, one of the characters is like wants to create a new universe, so he wants to break the veil to recycle the energy, and that's like the big bad of the whole story. Comes in 30 books in, but that's where it goes. Because I also thought about it, I'm like, oh cool, we can have multiple universes. Well, we can't, but because we're part of this larger indie community, that veil connects to other universes that aren't part of this one, right?
That is literally so. That's funny. So our idea is that we have our main universe, which is where our Earth is, right? Which we don't call Earth. We have a different name for it, but basically there is this magical realm called the Noctum realm, and with the Noctum realm, like while accessing it or like during the moment you're trying to enter it, that like we don't have a name for that, but I guess like a void, like this area is where we can branch into other universes in the indie comic realm because we have an idea like way later down the line of this ultimate bad guy kind of coming in where we would actually bring in characters who are in these other comics to fight this bad guy.
Yeah.
But they're from other universes, like almost exactly like that. That's very cool.
We started working on this like connection to other universes because the Convictor, we're doing a crossover with Caliber just because the characters are so similar and so opposite at the same time that we were like, yeah, we need to have like some kind of cool crossover. And it's going to be like, what was that movie? There's a movie with Will Ferrell and the short black comedian. I can't think of
Get Hard.
Get Hard.
Yeah.
So, you know how, like we have a promo picture where you have Caliber on top of Convictor drawing on his face with a Sharpie, just like that, right? Is Caliber doing stupid stuff while Convictor is trying to be all serious, and he's like, "Why are you serious? Like, you can do the same thing and have fun." Because Caliber is very talented. I think that's one thing that we've underplayed so far is the talent that Caliber does possess. Brad in real life is actually trained in 7 different forms of martial arts. He is top in his class in firearms. He's a detective in real life. He does all the things that make up Caliber. Brad can do in real life. He doesn't want his character to be able to do anything he can't do. And
that's awesome.
Brad in real life, he's working on creating his own form of martial arts. So you'll get to see in book 5. We're going to go more into it. In book 3, I had him dodging and dipping and moving, but we just don't get to see a lot of it. So that's something we want to develop a little bit. Convictor, because it's a solo series, Jason's able to show Convictor's tactical prowess a little bit more than I'm able to with a team book. And so we want to use that book to also show off Caliber a little bit. But when we were talking about this whole crossover thing, we're like, how do we make that work? And Brad is like my balancing act for everything. Like he brings me down a level. He's like, that can't work that way. Like we have to have hard rules for how these things work, or we'll have utter chaos. And he said the only way we can make it work is if he's connected to the veil. But so in Jason's universe, he has what's called the Tartarus, which is where all these different things come from that aren't part of the universe that he's in, right? So his Tartarus and my veil are kind of the same thing. They're connected. And so that's how we can explain the crossover.
That's kind of like what our idea was. That's awesome. Like literally the idea is not everyone has their own Noctum realm. They have basically the idea was we wanted to get rid of like a heaven and hell in our world. We just have this world, right? But maybe in like the regular like our Earth, there's a heaven and hell, and that's like their veil, right? Like their thing that they could cross through, but you have to be in this whatever this magical realm is, because almost every comic book has some other world. And if they don't, it's just never referenced, which means it can exist. And it could just be like their equivalent of like a heaven or a hell or like a, what's it called? Like a purgatory, just like nothing, right? And like whatever that is in their universe, that is the equivalent to, like you were saying, like our Noctum realm. It's like just a place that allows them to cross over. And so
and it exists to be able to allow people's imagination to run rampant.
Yeah.
Right? And as creators, it gives us a very easy place to draw from to explain the unexplainable, right?
Yeah. Without doing like the Marvel, multiverse of like, hey, we got 16 Spider-Mans, we can keep killing them off because we're on a different Earth now. Like that's kind of like what we wanted to avoid, but we wanted the ability to, introduce things that were outside of what our story were without it being like
right. And crazy. I didn't want to introduce aliens. That was a big thing that I didn't want to do because we have this very closed story. Now, eventually, we can bring in aliens much later. But when we were like working on some of the story aspects, and again, it's D&D, so I asked my players like, what do you want to see? What are things that you like? What are things you don't like? And Brad is very about just keep it grounded, keep your rules the rules, don't break everything. You have the rules of Dungeons and Dragons, operate within them, they work for a reason. And then Terrell was like, well, the biggest thing that pissed me off about Dragon Age was that you get through Dragon Age Origins and you fight the big bad and you think you've saved the galaxy, your world from the most evil thing ever, and then they come out with a new one and it's all of a sudden there's something worse than that. And that gets old. It gets old having these same like, oh, this
a bigger Death Star.
like this ancient evil's back, but we just killed the ancient evil. This is a different ancient evil. It's like, well, how many ancient evils do you have, right? So he's like, if you're going to have this overarching terrible story, give us a conclusion to that. And if you're going to bring something else that's bad in, it's a new bad. It's not this old bad. It's a new one, and it's here because maybe you took this one out and the balance isn't there anymore. And so I was like, oh, that's cool. So I can do this. And the reason the aliens were staying away was because this big bad was here. They're like, we're not screwing with that. Oh, it's not there anymore? Cool. Now we can come in.
Have you ever seen or played the games, the God of War games?
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's a really great example of like they moved from like one collection of gods to another for the latest one. That's a really cool way to go about that. Like that's the kind of stuff that I would like to do. Like as we build up bad guys, not just recycling like, oh yeah, it's an ancient evil. No, there's a worse ancient evil. It's we just forgot about it in the stories. I definitely like that.
Yeah, actually, what's funny is my first version of Crit. It was actually I wanted to create. I've always wanted to create superheroes within D&D because the format's there. It's just very, very hard to accomplish, keep it balanced, and make everybody happy with their powers. And so my first version was it was a joke campaign that ended in a Royal Rumble in Australia, which was the gate to hell. But essentially, Earth has always been a middle ground for all these different gods. And when Christianity took over, your Roman gods, Greek gods, like all the other gods were banished from this realm because they believed in one true, because Christianity was a prominent religion, and all of their power on this realm is based off of how much
people believe in them,
right? But the thing is, Christianity was slowly getting pulled away because, and it was like me making fun of society. We're no longer really worshiping gods anymore. We're worshiping people because Hollywood and things like that. So I had actually John Cena was the god of war. Like Ares had taken over god like John Cena.
That's awesome.
Bieber was the devil. So Hades took over. Like so the Greek gods had kind of come in, or maybe it was the Norse gods. One of them had kind of come in because now humanity's at a weak point, right? We don't have an actual deity that we're worshiping. We're worshiping ourselves, which leaves room for them now to come in. And what they do is instead of coming in as gods, they're like, hey, we can just take over these people.
I'm a Hollywood actor. I'm a music
star. Yeah, they come in, like Obama at the time, because Obama was arguably one of the more famous presidents, right? And so it's like, so they take over Obama, they take over John Cena. And in the first mission, the team, like they get the Norse gods come in and they're like, hey, this isn't how it's supposed to be. Like, we're not allowed to do this. We had made a pact as all the gods, like the Egyptian gods, everybody had made this pact not to do this, to let humanity kind of do its thing. And we're not going to take them over to take over the world. Like they didn't like what was going on. So they make a pact with a few humans. They're like, hey, we're going to bestow our powers on you so you can stop this, but we can't help you because that's against the code, right? Odin's going to kick my ass if I even do this. So like, you can have my powers. So essentially they have to take on the powers of the different gods, but they had to learn how to use them. They weren't strong enough out the gate to use them. So they had to slowly like build up their levels. So it kind of like, that's how I built it into the system. But the first game, I wanted to give them a base, right? Because your first D&D game, you always get a base. That's like, your base of operations, where you work out of, where you get your missions from, things like that. So they meet they know that that Kanye West is being held in this building, and Kanye West is dating what's her name, who Persephone has taken over, and she is like using her looks and everything to rule this section of the world. So they think that Kanye is actually a bad guy, and so they go in and they use tear gas, they use mustard gas, they annihilate everyone in this building thinking it's full of bad guys. I'm like, guys, the front door was open because you were supposed to go in and save Kanye and take over the building. And they kill his kid, they mustard gas all these guards that are protecting him, and the front door was open. They're blowing holes in the side of this building, and I'm not stopping them. They're picking people off from a distance and stuff, and I'm like, they get in, and the one guard was like, we were waiting for you. And they're like, wait a minute, what? You set up this whole compound for us to walk in the door? I was like, yeah, this is supposed to be a 10-minute segment that you turned into a 3-hour battle. And I'm like, so you just destroyed half your base. You've killed half the guards that I put here to protect you. And now Kanye West, they've taken capture, right? And because Kanye West was supposed to be my Sam Jackson. And he was going to go around and like recruit people for the team. But now they're holding him captive. And that set the tone for the entire thing, which ended, like I said, in a Royal Rumble, because for some reason we decided that wrestling now exists in D&D, and they just wrestled their way in a battle royale where Randy Savage came in and saved their asses at the very end. And I cut the campaign there because we had things going on, but that was like where the idea started with Crit. Was that campaign, and we had so much fun just doing stupid shit. In book 5, actually, Mr. Wizard and team. So this group of characters, as they gain notoriety in the world, they quickly created their personas of Mr. Wizard, the Spectre, I forget what his name was. My buddies had a character. I think it was the Spectre. And then, so it's like the news crew is interviewing them, and he goes, what's your name? Is like, oh yeah, I'm Mr. Wizard. Oh, and I'm the Spectre. And it gets to my buddy Kid, who actually in our book now is called Bones. They're like, so what's your name? He's like, Alan. Alan what? No, just Alan. And we have Just Alan over here. So his superhero name became Just Alan. And so now that universe, though, does exist within Crit. It's a TV show.
That's awesome.
Mr. Wizard and Friends. And it just hit its peak when they had to raid. I forget which superstar. It was probably John Cena, because I think that was the one where they raided his party and tried to kill him. But they're raiding everything, and I set everything up perfectly for them to be up at this like big party. They had invites, and they're like, "No, we're gonna parachute in white tuxedos and murder everyone." And I'm like, "What?" And they're like, nope, we're going to do it. So they rolled really well. They parachute down in. Everyone lands except one of them. He dropped the ball on that. And they just take out their powers and guns and start blasting their way through it. And I said, okay, like I have to do something with this. So when Crit came around, we were going to like try and continue that. And they're like, no, we can't continue that craziness. I was like, well, then it exists now within the universe. It's its own TV show. And so kind of cool that in book 5, I'm able to introduce it. And one of the guards is sitting here and he's watching an episode of it when Crit comes up to the guard shack and like screeching wheels. So eventually I would love to do like some books about Mr. Wizard and Friends, just because it was like that crazy.
I was actually going to have a question like, are you going to continue Crit forever, or are you going to do like another?
No, Crit it was planned to be 36 issues, but as I'm drawing it and I'm seeing how the story goes, it'll probably be closer to about 40 issues so I can flesh it out a little bit more. But it is a limited series. And that's because I like more direct storytelling. Like I like the fact that Invincible ends, right?
Yes, yeah.
The reason that I get bored of superhero comics, X-Men, right? I was a huge fan of X-Men in the 90s, late 90s. Well, early 2000s, I was signed to a record label. I was touring the world. I literally Europe, all these other places. And then when I wanted to get back into comic books, I picked up X-Men. And all of a sudden I'm like, wait a minute, where am I? This isn't the team that I knew in the 90s. Like, it's not even close. And then I find out there's like, 10 different number ones again. And I'm like, okay, I'm lost. Right. So like, I just couldn't get back into comics anymore because I didn't know where to start. And then I thought about it when we were creating ours, and I was like, well, that would suck for a kid, right? The kid's like, hey, check out X-Men. Well, which one? Like, which number one? Which team?
Which number one? Yeah.
Like, we have 50 different teams now. And so I was like, well, and we all decided, as much fun as we have with this, when the campaign's done, Crit is done. But the world of Crit still exists. So we can write stories within the world, and the characters could still be there. They can be referenced. Right.
I was just thinking of something that would be really cool. What was the name of the thing with John Cena that you said? Like, what's that world called?
We didn't have a world for it. It was just called like the Superpowers was the name of the book that I made for it.
So the thing that would be really cool, I was just thinking of this.
Sorry, Mr. Wizard and Friends is
Mr. Wizard and Friends. That's yeah. So it's something I just thought of that would be pretty awesome to have, just because like this would be cool. I know like as a kid, if I got a comic book for Crit, I'm reading through that, and then it's the end of the story. There's an ad, right? Like an ad page, just like there's been in comics for whatever. And then after you flip that ad, there's like 4 pages of a short comic for that, knowing that that comic exists in the world of Crit. Like they could read that comic.
That's one of the things I want to work on, is getting that done. I just need to figure out how I want to do it. I've got a few friends that have offered to work on something like that for me. And that way it's a different art style completely. So when you get to it, you're like, oh, and then we were like, oh, well, that'd be a cool stretch goal, right?
Yeah, to like have that as like because I think it'd be, I don't know, just to me at least, I think that'd be so cool to see a basically having that world, because it already exists as a TV show in there, as like this separate comic book, but it's in like it's part of the comic book you get for Crit, and like you're flipping through, you finish that story, and there's like, even if it's only a 4 or 5 page comic, like a really short comic, because it's meant to just be this TV show in your world, and that's just something that's added on to the ends of comics as stretch goals. Like, hey, if you want to have this little extra story continue, we want to reach the stretch goal, and only when we reach the stretch goal will we add to the story. That would be such a cool idea, having that as like part of the world.
Yeah, actually, now that we're sitting here, like, and I'm mulling over my head, I've been talking to Robert Nix a lot about getting him to do something for me. Yeah, I do all my interior work, so it's really hard for me to get someone else to take over. So I think we've been tossing back and forth ideas. That'd be actually really cool as a stretch goal now that I'm introducing it in book 5. Like, I've been dying to introduce Mr. Wizard and Friends into Crit just because it exists, and we wanted to like have movie posters and comic books and things. It's like the Marvel universe in their universe, which is kind of funny because arguably the Marvel universe exists because they're very self-aware. They exist in our world. Like they're real people, like Brad and all them, they're real people. It's just, this is us telling it. So yeah, you if you've read the books, there's tons of references, like, aim for the bushes from the other guys and things. Like, we reference possible
that for like the millionth time.
Yeah, there's even a Captain America reference in book 3 where Calibur's like, surprise round mother, and then Boulder's like, language. But it's actually funny because in real life we were working this out, and Brad wanted to say, surprise round motherfuckers, and Terrell was like, no, we can't have language like that in the book because my kid wants to read this. And so it just worked, and I was like, we can totally have a Captain America ripoff real quick, and it's really funny and it fits. And so like I said, the book is very self-aware, but I think if I'm going to talk to Robert probably this week now and see what we can work out to introduce this book, because I've already written the first 4 pages in my head while we're sitting here, which is going to be them like picking off dudes on the building in the first round, and then they go in and blow the whole thing up.
Well, that's the cool thing. Like being so crazy of a story, you can tell it pretty quickly with just a couple of pages, and like just have it be some insane scene that's happening. And then when you get those little moments where like it's on a TV in the background of a what's it called? I think you said it was a security guard, right? Yep. It's like then that could even be like one of the panels you've already drawn, like making it look like it's on a TV screen, but it's literally in the comic. Like that would be such a cool Like, yeah, I love those Easter egg stuff. Like that's the stuff Greg and I like. Whenever we like talk about something, we'll start asking more questions about it. And then we're like, how can we like make this little thing over here, but like it's like we do it on purpose. Some people won't even know it's there, but if they notice it, they're gonna realize later, like, oh, that looks familiar. Where's that from?
Yeah.
Well, thanks to this conversation, as soon as we're done, I am gonna get the ball rolling on that because I've been, because in that game, the only ones that played were Brad and Ryan Kidd, who are in Crit, and it's funny because we like Terrell, Obi, Terrell and Obi come from a different game. We played Mass Effect. We homebrewed a Mass Effect game together, and that's really what started the idea of Crit. Was we loved playing Mass Effect every week. Like when I lived in Boone, North Carolina, and there wasn't much to do, so we just got pizza every Sunday and played D&D. And when I first started playing, I was like, "Oh man, this can be. I don't want to do this." But I had so much fun playing with them. 10 years later, we hadn't really talked that much. Some of us were friends, some of us weren't. But I called everybody. I said, "Hey, let's play D&D again," and they were like, "Yeah, of course. Like that sounds like a good time." And we had so much fun the first time we got together. I said, okay, I got to draw this. And it's just kind of like blossomed from that. But the core of it always comes from different D&D things. So I think that if I was able to, I can't use the Mass Effect campaign, sadly, because, copyright. But I can use some of the other stuff we've done where we have like the Mr. Wizard and Friends. And I think even in Boone, we had tried a superhero campaign at one point. I was a player there and I was the biggest pain in the ass. And I think I can incorporate some of those things into it, but like I said, I just wrote the first 4 pages in my head and it's done. I'm going to make this happen because, Ryan and Brad have this connection to it to where it gives them an even deeper connection to Crit, knowing that their other campaign is now coming to life within it. And so I think I'm going to be able to do that. That's going to be fun. And it's so crazy and zany that I know that people are just going to like, flip to it and go, oh god, that's hilarious. It's even worse than Crit,
That's what I mean. Like it would be such a cool idea because like what's it called? Like the Boba Fett example from Star Wars, like people love this random character essentially. Like he really is just a random character. And they make a bunch of lore around it. Having this little side small mini series comic at the end of your comic, and like there's gonna be people who literally get the comic and they're like, I'll read Crit later. What's going on over here? Like that's such a cool, like, that's the stuff that, like, I find exciting for, like, fans. Because, like, I know that if I really loved some universe, that's what I would do. Like, I would be diving into all these little things. So
I think it's going to hit. I'll have to change some of the celebrity names, because of copyright. And
you should just, like, switch the first and last letters of their names, like San Gina.
Well, like the best one's going to be Obama. I'll have to figure out how to do,
President. Yeah. Obama.
Yeah.
I'll
make it a female. I'll just gender swap it and switch the name.
Yeah.
There we go.
You just add like an A at the end of everyone's name, Jana, Cena.
Yep, exactly. And if it's a female, we'll do the exact opposite. We'll, just make it like Chris.
I actually just thought of something. You could even do like the what's it called, the Marvel way, where everyone's got alliteration. So like John Gina, Barack Obama, like.
Yeah. Real quick, since we're talking about Crit, I haven't really shown a lot of this stuff off because I have 20 lives booked this month and put out Crit 4 and my job. I work in taxes now, so you can just imagine what we're going through. But I got my collector cards here.
Oh, awesome!
Yep, and so they're all designed.
Those look great. That looks awesome.
And I'm actually announcing today the villain version of those cards is going to be in the Kickstarter for book 5, which launches March 2nd. I guess I've got like 2 weeks there, almost 2.5 weeks to go until that book launches. And so I want to get some momentum behind my villains. I think one of your strongest points has to be your villains. That's what creates contention for your heroes. So today I will be announcing on Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff, the Kickstarter for that. And then, I'm doing 2 more foil covers. So
nice. That was clean.
My printer just nails these freaking foil covers. And I don't know if you've seen the artwork for it, but I'll share that real quick if you got a second. let me pull up my Kickstarter here. And where you guys at? One second. Like what's there, and then it went away. Thank you. There we go. Okay, so I've shared that. So I've got the page built. It's all good to go. You know, I've talked a lot about Dungeons and Dragons. If you're a fan of Dungeons and Dragons, you know to check it out. But I want to show off my covers because those are what's in the book. And so here's all 4 covers.
And the green one's intense.
Oh yeah, let me zoom in here. Let me see if it'll let me zoom in. There we go. Where am I? That one right there is probably my favorite. That's
oh my god, yeah.
This one's gonna be I'm gonna pick right here. So. It's gonna be close to 50 pages, if not a little bit more, when it's all said and done. And then these 2 are my standard covers.
Yeah, the first one on the left looks awesome. That's probably my second favorite one. The one on the right looks dope. It's obviously like emotional, so it's more tied to the characters. The green one looks intense. Like that looks like that gives me some. Damn, I'm trying to think of what like world I'm picturing that from. Oh, Ermac from Mortal Kombat. Yeah, that's what I'm getting.
Actually, my favorite, arguably one of my favorite fighters in Mortal Kombat.
Lots of we are many, you are one.
Actually, the logo is inspired by Mortal Kombat, the video game.
I can see that. Yeah.
But this one actually, so it's emotional, but it's funny at the same time because he ate some bad tacos and he got really sick.
Oh, that's awesome. So you got like the main cover, a comedy cover, a dark cover, and then like the it looks like kind of like the Avengers cover, like everyone together.
Yeah, so how I pitched this cover to Matt was I wanted cool guys walk away from explosions. And so it's like a band shot walking away from the explosion.
Nice, yeah.
When he sent it to me,
no way that they actually walk away from an explosion like that.
Yeah, well, we're a big fan of Lonely Island, so I had to make a reference. And nice. I have all the other books available in this Kickstarter as well. And I'm just waiting on the final cover for the trade paperback. I'm putting issues 0 through 5 in the trade paperback. And I'm also going to put the original issue 0, I think, in the trade paperback for people. I released it with the Indiegogo, and I haven't done anything with it since, but I think it'd be something fun to throw into that just as an extra, for picking up the big giant book.
Yeah. I was actually going to ask about, since you have technically 6 books, we have multiple different comic series. We have Ink and Scales and Seer Chronicles and all that stuff. Do you think people should just release one series at a time, or do you think it doesn't matter?
I think it depends. So I'm a person where I want to see a completed story. So at least finish the chapter. I think some indie creators, not all, because I've seen like Nick from Demon Hunter Raven. He has multiple different stories going at the same time that all connect to each other, but he releases very large books. So if you give somebody a 20-issue comic and then you jump to another 20-issue comic, but you haven't resolved some of the stuff in here, it's going to be really hard to get that reader that's now on your 3rd different storyline to come back to resolve this book. And so I think you can do it. You have to do it right.
Yeah.
And having 3 different storylines going on at the same time and not enough resolution on any of them creates confusion. That's my own personal opinion. As a reader, it would just make it hard because then you're a creator trying to put out 3 or 4 stories in a year and you have a full-time job and you have a family and all these other things. You're not a full-time comic book creator, so you can't put out issue 1, and then get your 2nd or 3rd issue out in the same year, right? Unless you have a team that maybe you're able to do that. If you can do it and you have the creative team that empower to do that, by all means, put out 3 titles in a year and have them balanced. But I think it's really hard when for me, I draw all my books. I letter all my books. I can't have, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to move Mr. Wizard into like a secondary story, is I couldn't have 2 books going on at once, or else one's going to suffer, right? And so I think people need to stick with what they're good at. And if you're good, like Nick is great. Nick can put out Demon Hunter Raven. He can put out Sunchild, and then he's got Radiant Rapture launching, I think, in 2 weeks, week after mine. But they're like 50-page books that you get with his stuff. So he's telling a consolidated story there. You're getting enough that says, cool, I'm satisfied here. Now I'll go read your other 50-page story. Knowing they're all tied together, I think that's safe.
Yeah.
I put out 20 to 30 pages at a time. My chapters are about 200 pages long. So, I need 2 years really at this point with my productivity level to be able to tell a full story. So you'll see I have a second. So Crit has 2 side stories. And I'll actually tell you here, the guy up here, this guy gets his own book. It's going to be 1 book, probably about 50 pages. And so he gets his own book. And then if you've read the books, the character Richter, he gets his own, him and his team get their own side story, the Vanguard. They have a 6-issue that I'm going to run, but that's being told the same way with D&D. Actually, I have 2 more sessions of Crit and D&D, and then we're taking a break for a few months and working on Vanguard, where they get to create their characters in Vanguard, and we get to tell that story. And what I'm going to do there is I'm going to build the world of Crit, because you see some of the stuff in Crit, you don't see it all. And so Vanguard takes care of some of the stuff that Crit isn't going to take care of. And I'm working on some of those villains. I actually sent Brad a text message today. I found a figurine, just a random like custom, and it's a brain inside of a head it's like a robot body, and it has like a brain. And I said, so we can make a mind flayer, which is like a very dangerous villain in D&D. I'm like, I can make a mind flayer controlling a robot body. And now all of a sudden we have this really cool villain for the book. And he was like, I mean, we could make that work, but mind flayers are really powerful. They're mind controlling like demons. Like, it'd be fun. Can you guys give me 1 second? My kid is making some noise. I think my wife's gone. Just let me make sure she's okay. Give me 1 second.
Yep.
Be right back.
I'm just doing something so it's easy to find it. But anyways, so yeah, what we were talking about, we were talking about the covers. And then you said you were talking about the solo series branch offs of this guy, and who was the other guy?
So Richter, I don't think he actually shows up in any of this stuff. Richter is in books. He's in like every book except for this one. This guy is knocked out right now. So this
Nice.
guy right here, who is the head of Technetic Security, he eventually gets his own book called Vanguard.
Very cool.
Yeah. Well, Vanguard gets the book. Right now he's in Vanguard. If he lives, it's D&D. He might die at some point. But yeah, I think actually in the story we're close to a point now. Like I said, I've written the next 2 game sessions, and they've already put a bunch of stuff into place. So I was like, we're going to be at a really good stopping point to where we can play the Vanguard campaign, because we've been playing Crit for going on 3 years, almost 4. And so, that's in D&D terms, that's a long time to be playing one campaign.
That guy, if you scroll up a little bit with the purple hands,
Yeah,
I love that. Like, we have a character who, like, when he uses his powers, like there'll be a glow around it, and like that looks really cool. Ours isn't like with the hands and stuff. It's with like it's our ink character, ink, yeah. So I just love that look though, because I'm picturing that now. Like, that's the kind of idea of what we have for that. And I wanted to reiterate. You said that you draw and letter these. Do you color these? Do you do like everything beginning to end?
I don't color these. I am not that talented to color. I wanted to learn how to color, and I realized that I could do one of 2 things. I could learn how to color and be okay at coloring and be okay at my line work, or I could just continue to get better with my line work, because this is like book 1. And I will say the end of book 1 looks so much better than the beginning of book 1, because I literally learned how to draw by doing all this stuff. And So I taught myself everything in here. My wife really helped out a lot. But book 2, I learned quite a bit about shadows and everything else. But this is book 3 here, and I'm trying to incorporate more backgrounds and elements into book 3 than previous, to give it like a feeling that you're inside the same area they're in. And there's my favorite character is Samedi the talking cat, because he's just a jerk. But in book 4, he was drunk the whole time, so he didn't show up. And what's funny about book 4, you get to see Crit unmasked for the first time throughout the good half of the book, because they work for Technetic. So they're kind of undercover, like looking for something as Technetic agents and they quickly shift into their suits when they realize they're facing something that calls for secret identities and not to implicate their employer. But this is my favorite page, because they're talking about, so in the game, they wanted theme music to ride into battle. And Brad had pulled out his phone, put theme music on. And so when we were putting the book together, he says, he's like, I want to put on my Kenny Loggins mixtape. And they start arguing over which is the best Kenny Loggins song. And so we were actually arguing when we were lettering the book as to which song to reference in the book. And we couldn't figure it out. So I put insert song. And so as we were reading through, we got to the reading stage, and I was like, insert song. And so now it just made us laugh. We were dying laughing. So it's like, oh man,
insert song is my jam.
Yeah. And they get into a big argument about, and then Austin is the youngest guy in the group. And he was like, I don't even know who that is. Like, I don't even know who Kenny Loggins is. And so, it was just an ongoing joke. But then when we got to the book, they actually were talking about different songs. They were arguing over which was the best song. And I said, I'm dying laughing at this insert song. So we're going to just keep it as insert song.
Yeah, I think you might have mentioned that on the last time we had you. And I think you also were discussing, you realize putting the lyrics in there might also be an issue. And so, leaving it that way makes it funny, and you avoid any potential copyright claims.
Yeah, that actually is an issue, because I learned that we were doing Chronicles of Horror 2, and there was lyrics from a Stone Temple Pilots song that Matt wanted in there. He's like, well, it's part of the story. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to get sued. And he's like,
yeah.
So? And I'm like, so?
Fair use act that as long as you only use a little bit.
Yeah, if it's when it comes to music, it's more than 3 or 4 notes for a melody. But when it comes to lyrics, yeah, I think as long as you don't spell out a bunch of stuff in there, because essentially the whole argument is whether or not you're earning money in place of the money they're earning, kind of thing. But yeah, if it's a couple of words, I think it's fine. Yeah. But if you put a whole sentence there, a whole a verse, yeah, that would be bad.
Yeah, we just have music notes when the radio's playing, because I was unsure and we were ready to print it. So
we had that. What is it? Is it? I forget who sings it. There Goes My Hero.
Foo Fighters.
Yeah. So in the end of book 3, we actually have There Goes My Hero, but it's There Goes My Heroes, because there's 2 people on the page.
Yeah.
Put the music behind it, because music is a big thing in Crit, because Brad's always having some kind of theme song playing. And at the end of book 3, I gotta find it, because it's arguably in book 3 again, the music scene is my favorite page, because book 3 is told from the perspective of they're giving a record of events to Richter, so he knows what happened. And so at the very end of the book, I don't know if you can read it, but so Richter's just completely unamused, because at the the page they jump out of, they're talking about it, and they jump out of the building, and there's music playing, and then we cut to them talking to Richter, and he's like, I think we can do without the soundtrack. And Caliber's like, don't take this little piece of joy away from me. And that's kind of how the game goes anyway. It's me trying to rally them in together, to tell this cohesive story of what they're doing, and they just want to do whatever it is they want to do. It makes it so much more fun for me as a creator. I have a completely different writing style than most other creators, because the story happens organically. And I think that's attractive to new people that want to check it out. You're not just playing in my brain. You're literally watching the craziness of our campaign unfold.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. It's kind of like you figured out how to make a real life version of something that's, magical in the sense that, like, it's not real, but it's playing out like it would if it was real.
Exactly.
It's kind of like what we were chatting about with the Peacemaker show. It's just like the idea that, you're like, my brother said this when we were watching it. There's like a moment where like somebody says something, like John Cena says something, and somebody reacts exactly how you would have reacted if you were in that situation.
Mm.
And it's like that's exactly why it's so great. So like having a comic that plays that same tune where it's like, oh wow, yeah, that's what I would have said too, even though I don't have superpowers in this scenario. So it is very cool to have that.
And when I pitched this, so I had to pitch the game, right? They didn't come to me and say, hey, let's do this. I had to pitch this idea to the team. And my pitch was simple. I said, I'm not going to make this complicated because none of us, we haven't played in a long time, so I don't know the role-playing chops of everybody. I'm going to make it real simple for you. You wake up tomorrow with superpowers. So it's you, but with superpowers. What do you do, right? And so it's really easy to role play for them because they know what they would and wouldn't do, right? And they know things. Sometimes we have to argue because sometimes they get into the character a little bit too much. And like Terrell is really guilty of this. Like Boulder would do this. It's like, but Terrell, would you? Like you really wouldn't do that, would you? No, I wouldn't. And but they're so especially early on in the season and the series, they're very into what they're doing, and they're very like, I wouldn't do that, I wouldn't say that. And for me as the writer and everything, it makes it so much easier for me to write because I can just call them and say, hey, would you say something like this? Oh, you would say it that way? Cool. Now I can fix it.
Yeah, it's like you have editors based on the fact that the characters themselves are actually alive. Like, they can be like, nah, that's not how that would play out.
Exactly. And actually what's even more funny is Kid, who is Bones is the giant character who comes in book 4, and he's supposed to be an enemy, but they quickly realize that he is just a victim of circumstance similar to them, and he doesn't talk because Kid doesn't really like role play that well with the group because he's kind of an outsider as far as the friends go. He knew me, he knew Brad from a previous campaign, but he doesn't really know the rest of the group, and so when we're playing, he sends GIFs and memes as a response to a lot of things. Like there's something going on and he'll send a GIF or a meme. And so I was like, in the game or in the book, that's going to happen. They're all going to be talking. And then all of a sudden their phones are going to buzz and one of them is going to look at it and there's going to be a meme. Right.
That's awesome.
And I was like, so that's how your character is arguably going to communicate most of the time is thought bubbles. Like we'll be able to see his thoughts, but the team will never really know what's going on until he sends a meme. And if you watch the old like Peanuts cartoon, all the adults are cut off at the head because they're tall, right?
Yeah.
Well, Bones is so big, there's going to be a lot of scenes where he's cut off at the head. And just because I'm like, for one, it's a complicated ass helmet. I'm tired of drawing it. But for two, it's funny, right? Like I can cut you off at the head, and I don't have to worry about like drawing this 7-foot tall giant all the time. Actually, in book 5, I did a perspective shot of him versus Boulder just to show everybody like how big this guy is in comparison. So I'll show that because none of this has really been seen yet. I've kept most of it close to my chest. I haven't even showed half my team, but
Greg, make them full screen real quick.
So yeah, this is Bones versus Boulder size comparison. So you can kind of see he's a big dude.
Yeah.
He actually here's another one. So he's looking down at Caliber. Mind you, Caliber is almost 6 foot tall. All right. So that's a big dude. And in real life, Kid is nowhere near 7 foot tall. Kid is a little bit taller than me. I think he's about 5'10". And so what happened is when he was exposed to this ethereal energy from that realm, it changed him differently. Like it affects everyone differently, and that's something that we're trying to get into now, is to show how the effects of having this energy in our world can negatively impact people. So Bones goes from this guy, and the reason his name's Bones is because Kid in real life has the same bone syndrome that Sam Jackson had in Broken or Unbreakable. Okay, he has brittle bone syndrome. So when I asked Kid if you were going to be a superpower, like what's your background, he goes, "Well, I would have, I want to pick this kind of character, and how it affected me was it made my bones stronger, but in the process of making my bones stronger, it makes me grow." And so he's like big because the energy affected him that way. So he's physically changed, but he also has the ability to call upon this like magical sword and shield and a hammer and like a spear. Like he can change the way he channels the energy. And so, he gains all this stuff, but at the same time, he can never be who he was because now all of a sudden he's just a different person. And we get to kind of like experience that. Like, how do you handle waking up in a new body one day? Like the Captain America thing.
Yeah,
like,
Captain America, but way taller.
And see, Boulder, it happens similarly. Similar to Boulder. Boulder is like dense. He's strong. Like he's super strong. Arguably, Boulder is stronger than Bones. Like even in game, I think Boulder gets up to like a score of 24 strength, and Bones can only cap out at 20, just because of the way the characters are built. So Boulder might be smaller, but he's stronger. Bones, on the other hand, also he has a higher defense, like he's more dense, and he has a higher hit point rate, so he can last longer in battle because he's made to take damage. So they're just
tank,
like,
yeah.
Right. Boulder is like the scrappy guy who's really strong and fast and can do some damage real quick, but he also takes a lot of damage. Bones is the opposite. He's the tank character, and there's a constant struggle between the two of them because Boulder suffers from like little man syndrome, where he's like even in book 4 when he first sees him, he's like, "Oh man, I thought you'd be bigger," right? And not realizing it's like, dude, you're like 5'5". This is a 7 foot tall man. You're gonna say you wish he was bigger, and because he wants to fight the biggest and the baddest all the time. And so we like kind of see that little man syndrome come through, which I love. Terrell, he's my best friend. We're the same height, so I'm a short guy too. I struggle, but in Boulder's case, because people ask like, how does it affect Boulder? Boulder's physically stronger. Like he's strong, he's quick, and he can survive like jumping out of a building, kind of like Captain America. We see him jump out of the helicopter, right? That's why at the end of book 3, Calibur's holding on to Boulder because Boulder can make that jump. Calibur, he jumps out of a 4th story window. He's be lucky if he survives that. He's probably going to die most likely because I think after 10 feet, that impact alone can kill you. And Boulder is able to, survive those kind of falls. But Bones, on the other hand, like he just jumps down. He's like, I can take all the damage all day. Whereas Boulder will, if you shoot him enough times, he'll go down. And then we have what is it? Everybody has like their own like different ways that it affects them, but we get to see later on in the book too that how I introduce normal like D&D monsters is that just like it affected Bones and Boulder in this way and gave Spectre the ability to channel fire. Well, the negative for Spectre is when he doesn't have his mask on, he's actually like spewing fire if he has it activated. So he's kind of like Johnny Storm when his powers are on, but it comes from inside, so it comes out of him. And so he wears the mask because they're like, man, like you're scary as shit. You need a mask. Like we can't have that flame face. And in issue 0, he doesn't have it, and he's got like flames all over his face. And they're like, yeah, we need to cover that up.
Nice.
And so that's why he wears the mask. And you get to see later on like actual monsters, and it creates this struggle for them. Like these were once human, right? And especially Bones. Bones was like, I was experimented on. Crit got their powers one way, but Bones was physically experimented on by, if you read book 3, the man and the robot, there's the robot face guy. He's a background player, but also this guy right here, the green guy, he can channel his energy into other people. He is the first of his kind to ever come to our realm, and he can bestow beings with his power. And so he creates Bones with the other guy to fight Crit. That's the whole purpose of Bones. not realizing like you can't just give a guy powers and then tell him, hey, you're going to go do this, and you expect him to do it. So, Bones is like they come across these humans that are all like mutated and monster looking, and they're like, well, what do we do with them? I mean, do we kill them? Well, they were once human, and there's actual struggle. They argued in game about what to do. Because a few of them were like, nah, man, like I wouldn't want to live like that. Let's put them out of their misery. And then somebody else is like, well, maybe we can help them. And it creates like this moral dilemma of like, and then Bones is sitting there like, well, that's me. Just they turned into that, and I turned into this. Like, I don't want to kill them. And so, book 5, I start to show you like it's not all glory having, the ability to have powers, because sometimes it's like a negative thing. And like even this guy, his powers are he absorbs kinetic energy. But the problem with absorbing kinetic energy, if his body doesn't exert it, it uses it like fuel. And therefore, if you don't use calories, which is energy, you turn fat. So this guy right here is also this guy right here. So as you can see, he's all like, a normal like looking dude here. But in book 1, Caliber throws a bunch of grenades at him. So he absorbs all that kinetic energy from the grenades and turns into this, the big fat Sumo Samurai. Based off of a real life friend of ours, not really friend, a guy that I knew who told me that he was a samurai sumo. He was actually trained in both samurai ninja warrior.
Jiu-jitsu.
But he was like 300 pounds and he couldn't even tie his own shoes. But he was a sumo samurai warrior. And he told me that he could kill me at any point in time. I'm like, dude, you lose your breath walking 2 feet. So that's who this guy is based off of. And he's actually wearing a sumo diaper like that. Yes, with shorts, because he's very, he's worried about his thighs.
He's subconscious.
He's self-conscious. So we, book 5 is all about those villains and everything. I wanted to talk about the tiers real quick. So day 1, I'm doing 2 different early birds. One with the heroes cover, and then the main cover and a T-shirt. You get a sticker pack, the poster pack, and then I always do the digitals, because if you're going to back the book, digital costs me nothing to send you at that point. And then the early bird collector gets you all 4 covers, the T-shirt, and everything else as well. So these 2 right here, the hero and the villain, are both foil, and they're also deluxe. So those are going to have, I'm putting in the hero's version, some of the hero concept art, fan art, things like that. The villain's book is going to have the villain concept art and the villain fan art that I have collected. So you'll get like 2 different versions of the deluxe edition. If you want to just back it to read it online, digital edition, $5. And then I have all the other ones. So
is that crit 0 through 5 you get for that?
No, yeah, this is the digital catcher. I actually need to change that pricing. Thank you. That's supposed to be $6. I need to go in there and fix that.
Yeah, I just noticed that. Yeah, I was like,
so for $6, you'll get all of them. Again, it's just a digital versions of the books. And then for $3, you get the main one. For $3 extra, you can catch up on all of them, and you'll get the poster set as well. I just didn't catch that when I was putting all this together at 1 o'clock in the morning. So,
yeah,
if I was not live, I'd have a problem.
Greg's like, I feel you on that.
On my last campaign, I didn't fix international shipping, and I charged like $5 for international shipping up one tier.
Mm-hmm.
Screwed myself royally on that.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to shipping the rest of our stuff.
Yeah, I was so mad because I had 3 internationals on that one tier. And they were like anywhere from $30 to $60.
Like, I'm mad that I have fans in other countries, but happy at the same time.
Right. It's like that moment. It's like I was more mad at myself for like not catching that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
so the strong hero and necromancer edition. That's pretty dope.
Yeah, this is the foil cover. So those are 10. Where's my? That's weird. So it didn't put the other graphics in. There's supposed to be one in between there. The standard edition's $8, and there's 2 different standard editions, and then you've got your. So I'm finally doing the D&D version that I've wanted to do this entire time. I have custom D6 die being made right now, and we're going to release levels 1 through 5 on the characters, so you can create your own version of Boulder, Bones, Caliber, all of them. You can create your own version of them. and they're literally, we put 500 hours just into the game creation, so it's balanced to work in a 5th edition game. So if you play D&D and you just want to have a fun campaign in a more modern setting, you can do it with these heroes. And then I've got the Righteous Hero, which is the standard. This is pretty much what the early collector's pack is, the early bird special, but this is for everybody that comes in afterward. So you get the t-shirt, you get the foil cover, you get the standard cover, and then you get the poster pack. That's why this whole thing's messed up, because I put this one.
There's another one.
Yeah, so I need to remove this one and put the other one in, because I was like, I knew I put them all in. I guess I just put them in wrong. Again, I did this like at 1:00 in the morning. So, and it's not live yet. I still have 2 weeks to edit it, so we're good.
Yeah, it's good to catch it now. It's good.
Right. So we're doing an editing session on my campaign. Thanks everybody for your time. And then I always do like the big collector's editions. So you can get the collector, which is going to have, I put a placeholder here for the graphic on the trade paperback. It's almost done now. It's actually the guy who did the standard cover. He's doing that for me. And on the front is going to be Crit in their normal attire. It's a mirror. So you're looking in a mirror and you see them in like suits and ties, getting ready for work. And then on the back is them actually looking in that mirror in their Crit uniforms. And
that's awesome.
It's just all over the mirror table and everything. And there's some graffiti like on the back of that. So that'll be so you'll have the front and back of the trade paperback, and then I have the binding that I've got made. And you get that. You'll get all 4 covers. You'll get the t-shirt.
Critical.
What's that?
I said, let's get critical.
Yep. And then the big shebang. Everything that's in the campaign. You get the Crit D6. You'll also get. I'm having just like the last campaign, I had a figure made for Boulder. I'm having a figure made for Caliber on this one. And if you have the collector cards, they're making the figure based off of that image right there. Caliber against a bullet-ridden wall down the ground. It's a long day at work for him. And I'm also doing a collector's card just for Caliber on that one, just like I did for the first one. So it's a limited edition numbered card that goes along with the campaign. So this one, there's only, I believe, 10 available on this. The first time I'm doing this, and I was coerced into it by a few people, is to get drawn into the book. So when I do book 6, you'll get drawn into book 6 as an NPC. Book 6 is called tentatively until we might change it. We've argued about changing it, but I really want to call it Rock'em Sock'em because they're fighting robots, and what's better than Rock'em Sock'em robots, right? And you in the beginning of the book, they so just like in normal D&D, you find your characters find their way in life, and they create their own coffee shop to create revenue so they can be heroes. Don't ask me how they can balance a coffee shop and being heroes at the same time, but it's how they get they conned me into being able to get a coffee truck so they can go around the city doing. They set up to do coffee, but so they're making money while they go.
So it's a food truck that sells coffee, and
yes.
but it's also the getaway van, like.
Yep,
that's awesome.
The full name behind Homebrewed Heroes.
Exactly, it's kind of so in the game they call it Black Cat Coffee because Spectre Austin just wanted to call it something. I'm gonna persuade him into calling the company Homebrewed Heroes. And by persuade, I'm just going to name it Homebrewed Heroes, and he's going to deal with it later. But so in the beginning of book 6, Brad really doesn't want to work in this coffee truck, and so they're making lattes for everybody, and he just keeps calling number 7, and he just keeps calling this number 7 for everybody, and they're like, "Wait a minute. Everybody's not number 7." He's like, "Yeah, I don't want to do this shit. You're number 7 now." So you're either going to be one of the random number 7s, or you will be somebody that gets saved by Boulder in there. I have enough, NPCs in the book to put some people in there, so you get drawn into the book. That's the first time I'm doing it. I've seen it before, and I had a few people tell me I should do it, so I'm going to add that to the campaign. Cool thing that I'm actually excited about is more of the custom D6 that I've got coming. Every side has a different crit character on it. So
that's cool.
Yeah, those are the two big, the big ones right there. And then, so I'm going to put anybody that missed the last campaign. I've had a lot of people actually contact me afterward for cards. So you can get the hero cards. If you want to do add-ons, this is all my add-on section. So you can really customize any tier. You're not stuck with a tier just because you want that item in there. And I'm going to throw this back in here this time. So this somebody has his own tier last time. I still have a few of those left over. So I'm adding that back into the campaign. So, and I've had a couple people actually got their packages from me for book 4. And they were like, hey, can I just get another Samedi? Why? Well, my kid stole the other one. As soon as I unwrapped that dang thing, it was gone. So I've shipped out 4 more Samedis just since my other campaign ended.
That's awesome.
And then I've got my crew here. So I love this guy right here. Makes the interior just look great. He makes my work look like it's actually good.
Yeah, colors are phenomenal.
Yeah, he does such a good job. And he came in on book 2, and at that point I was doing flats, and he would just do all the details over top of my flats because I didn't have a lot of money. And we got into book 3, and he's like, can I just do everything? Because I don't even know how to flat, right? He's like, can I just do everything? He's like, and so we worked together on it. I got, on pricing and stuff and with Kickstarter. And so if you notice from book 2 to book 3, his colors get even better. And that's because I just said, yeah, just do it all. You can do it all. I'll just let you have it. And so these Terrell and Brad, they are my editors. They kind of reel me in and fix everything, and then at the very end we give it to the entire team to kind of go over their characters and tell me, yeah, he would say that or no. And if you back to book 4, you got the audiobook. And what happened when we did the audiobook, which is why I'm not doing it again, for one, it's really hard to get 6 people in a room for a few hours, and then I have to edit it. That audiobook was about 4 days worth of work just editing, and I actually gave it to Terrell to edit because I just didn't have the time. And so he had to cut it all and put it all in there. And so I listened to the audiobook, and Austin changed all of his dialogue. All of it. So
they didn't match the
book to match the audiobook. So I was like, yeah, we're not doing that again because I created so much additional work that, really I think 16, 17 people got them. So I appreciate everyone that took them. I think what we're going to do this time is we're going to do a live read. So I'm going to get everybody into a YouTube like this, and we're going to do a live read of Crit and give that back to everyone. So you kind of get the audiobook in a YouTube form, and you can download it and do it with it as you wish.
Do you have that planned out for during the actual during the campaign, to do that live?
Towards the end of the campaign, I should have everything done. And so when we do that final read through, and as long as time permits, because my job does, I'm almost done with the book, and we're actually at the point where we're almost going to start lettering it while it's being colored. But I do plan for fires happening, and just in case it doesn't happen during the campaign, it'll be shortly after, and we'll just throw it up there for everybody. And I'll send a link to all the backers so that way they can check it out. I think the fun part of the book is the personalities of all the characters, and so being able to showcase those personalities in every book is going to be fun. And then I also assign random roles to people. So in the last book, we have Blue Claw, and Bones didn't have a lot of dialogue in that book. So Kid was like, well, what do you want me to do? I'm like, well, you get to play Blue Claw. He's like, well, what line does he have? I'm like, he just says Blue Claw. So he just randomly started saying Blue Claw whenever his character was on page. And I had to fix the lettering because we were talking about him. He's like, Blue Claw? Every time we mentioned it, he would just echo, are you talking about me? And it was just hilarious. So I was like, okay, we need to keep that in there. And yes, Blue Claw and Jose do make an appearance in here, and we do get to kill Baskins in the book as well. That damn asshole Daryl Baskins is in the book. And for those of you that get the reference,
yeah, excellent.
Jose is a direct ripoff of him, of the Tiger King, and so that was Nate from Slate Comics actually designed him as a joke. I used to do these battle things on my Instagram where you could create your own character, and we would, battle it out. And then if your character won, they'd get in my book. And he created Jose, and I called him and I said, hey, actually in book 3, he created the dog that was in there, the teleporting dog, which is now officially canon and exists. And then in book 4, he created Jose because he won that campaign too. But I messaged him. I was like, hey, we all really like this Jose character. Can I keep him in the book? And he was like, so he does go off for a little bit, but he shows back up later on in the story. And he stays because, we took care of that asshole Daryl Baskins for him.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I have to do some editing on this, but here we are. And I think we have like 41 people following this. I think
I saw that. Yeah.
Let me see. Okay. I haven't checked it. Yep, 42. We're up to 42 people. Sweet. So and we have 2.5 weeks to get the pre-launch done. I've got shows booked like 4 or 5 a week to try and get the word out. So stoked for this one. This is going to be the biggest venture we've got. I'm already 19 pages finished with the story. I've got another 10 or 12 on my side, and then if you got issue 0, Nate from Slate Comics is doing the prologue, which is about 10 to 12 pages. And in the prologue really was going to be book 6 by itself. And I started listening to the campaign, and I'm like, it's a bunch of dialogue. It's just all arguing and dialogue. There was actually at the very end, I threw in a random fight just so they could have a fight in the game. And I asked everybody, I said, hey, how about we just make the end of book 5? We just do like a giant sized issue and just flesh this out in about 10 pages instead of having people back at Kickstarter for 18 pages of dialogue. we agree. Like, yeah, it makes more sense, keep the story interesting. And it's like a montage kind of ending. So you get to see it's really led by Boulder, but we have to really flesh out the end of their chapter and where they're going to be going. And then when I do book 6, you get to really see them take off in their coffee truck, the caffeinator, and fight some dang robots. So, and that truck, by the way, this Caliber, we play once a month, and I had forgotten some of the things they had. I think we had like 2 months off in the campaign. We get back, and he tried to tell me that he had attached a fire hose on top of the coffee truck, kind of like Ninja Turtles, and he wanted to use it as like a fire hose to douse his enemies in hot coffee. And I almost let it happen. I was like, did we really do that? And they really got me going that I had allowed it. And I pulled up the recording. I'm like, you guys lied to me. That did not happen. So so we will not have the coffee truck with the fire hose on it because I just really don't want to draw that.
Man, I was just thinking that something that would be cool is in the future, that would be like a really cool little Easter egg kind of like if you can get like a little figurine or like a little Matchbox style car of that.
Oh, I could. That'd be awesome.
Oh my god! Yeah, like honestly, if you get someone with a 3D printer to like build that out, like just put it on top of a metal frame, like that would actually be pretty cool.
I mean, we could, but then he's gonna argue with me that it has to be in the book.
And I don't know. I think the reason it's cool is because it's not in the book, but it's this little Easter egg, so only like real fans are gonna want it, and like that's why it's kind of cool.
I'll mention it. If he tries to make me put that in the book, I'm going to say no. But I do like the idea of actually putting that into the one of the Kickstarters as like the little figurine. Because I really want to do those. They're really not that expensive in the long run of things. We have in my town, I can pay $80 a month to a service here where I can go and print anything I want. And they have high quality 3D printers. So there's a few designers online I submitted my work to, and they charge me a design fee for the 3D file. They send me the 3D file. I just bring it to that printer. They get me set up, and it's good to go. So
that's awesome.
It's been, it was interesting. Actually, the first campaign, I found a printer for the figures. This is the Boulder figure, and you can't.
Nice.
And this is not what the backers got, because what they were supposed to send me was this. Okay. And they sent me, when I got my figures, is this, and this is a white powder, and it literally like it's cheap too. That I just broke that one. Yeah, but they were so cheap, and like I have white film on my hands from them, and I emailed them and I'm like, this is not what I paid for, and we went back and forth, and he tried to it became an argument, and he was clearly emotional about it. And so I said, just keep my $300, whatever. I can't use these. I can't send these to backers because
it's just hardened sugar on a pallet.
Right. And they just felt cheap. I said, if I'm gonna send stuff to people, I want it to be quality stuff. And so I wound up paying for 2 sets of prints on those things.
See, the interesting, those are the things that you could give away as freebies to fans and stuff.
Yeah. I don't know how they got the packaging done for those.
That sounds awesome.
I'm wondering about, not worrying about. I could just ask, be like, "Hey, JD."
Yeah,
but
I just want to know how you got this plastic thing done because
it's perfect. It's awesome.
Yeah, what I did with mine was I actually created my own packaging. It's kind of like the old school dollar store toys that you would buy. I created the topper, and you have a back in there, and so actually I think I might. Nope, they're all downstairs. So it was like an old bag toy, because
the one where it's a plastic bag and then the cardboard stapled on it, essentially. Yeah, I know that.
Yeah, so your old military figurines would come and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and that's how I did mine because I looked at that and that was really good, but I couldn't find anyone that would do it, and JD never told me where they made those. So I was like, well, I'll just make my own. I got some baggies and I got the topper. I was like, oh, this actually looks really cool. I really liked it. Because as a kid, I used to go to the dollar store all the time. And I just loved ripping that topper off. And so I just custom made the topper, went down to the printer and had them do a really thick cardboard print.
Yeah. I was going to say, honestly, that's probably a cheaper and still really cool way to do it. Because it's a lot less cardboard, the sealing of the plastic on the cardboard, where you can just staple. So you still get a really cool effect without a cost. I'm sure that probably what they did probably cost a lot more.
Yeah. I don't want to know how much they put into it because the figurines alone were $500 for me to get 6 of them made. So I really didn't have a budget for any more. Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah, this is awesome. Definitely glad we were able to go through all of this.
It's been a good 2.5 hours talking with you guys.
Now that it's coming to a close, we want to mention half this episode is going to be behind our Nova Nation paywall. Definitely check that out on our website. But in the meantime, Chris, where can they find you and where do you want them to go?
So the easiest place to find us is homebrewedcomics.com. I have all the links for everything on the page. If you're on Instagram, it's at homebrewedcomics. Facebook, it's at homebrewedcomics, but with an X instead of a CS. Twitter's the same way. So those are the 3 platforms I use. I have a TikTok that I post on every once in a while, but I'm not on there a lot. Your best bet is Instagram. I'm on there every day. So check it out. I'm actually gonna get off here, eat some food, then do the announcement for the villains contest, and you'll see me probably on every show possible for the next month, trying to get the word out about Crit. So
awesome. Well, it was great having you.
Yeah.
And what episode is this? Yeah.
I'll see you guys. March? You said March 6th.
6th.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Just let me know when
for episode 100. Come check it out.
Glad to be part of it.